Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I'm your host Scott and back with me as always is my trusty co-host Dan, and this week we are talking to Jess Podger. So Jess is a swimmer out of Bath University. She is one of the finest 200 meters freestylers in this country, and she is also putting a lot of effort into growing her own brand on social media, a topic that we push really hard on this podcast and what we do with Propulsion Swimming. So hopefully we can share some lessons from Jess's journey that can help everyone else who might want to grow their own social media presence.
She was actually very unlucky not to be shortlisted in our top 3 for the British Media Presence at our annual awards show. Very, very unlucky. She's doing a fantastic work producing amazing content from behind the scenes of what an elite swimmer does day to day. And this episode is all about discussing everything that she does do and puts into work into her social media as well as her swimming career as well, of course.
Absolutely. So let's jump into this week's episode with Jess Podger. Okay, so Jess, we're really excited to have you on to this week to hopefully talk shop when it comes to social media. Like, I'm excited to ask you questions. I'm kind of excited to see if you've got any questions for us as well about like a swimmer, growing a brand. But first and foremost, we'd love to talk through your journey in the pool because it's been one of a few stops over recent years. So why don't we start off with you telling everyone a little bit about where you're at now and how you got there?
So I'm at Bath University now. I started back when I was 10 at Cambridge Swimming Club, and then progressed quite fast and went to City of Bristol Swimming Club, which was kind of like a beacon sort of like collection of clubs where the higher swimmers go. Swam there for quite a few years before I went to Millfield School for sixth form and swam there. And then it was COVID when I had my A-levels, so I didn't actually take my A-levels. And I took a gap year after then because I didn't want to go to university during COVID and I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go. And then during that gap year, I decided I was going to go to Loughborough University. So then I went there and I was there for 2 years and then I left. Then I was at Millfield again last year, but under the performance squad with Ryan Livingstone, and now I moved to Bath. Yeah.
So is there a reason for all of these moves at all?
I feel like you shouldn't limit yourself on where you stay, and I feel like once you've outgrown a place, you shouldn't stay there, and you can only grow as far as your environment lets you. So I feel like every time I've moved on from somewhere, I have kind of like got what I can from the place and moved on so I can grow and develop more.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the right environment is important for a swimmer. Almost like that relationships between swimmer and coach and the environment can make all the difference rather than the sessions in the pool.
100%. I think it can have a big impact on how you swim and your well-being and how happy you are as well.
So what's it like being part of the Uni of Bath setup now? Like you've been there for like 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. So I started in September there and yeah, really enjoyed it so far. The group is really good. I swim with Mark Skimmings, so really good. I'm really enjoying it.
So what's the focus of your training been since you've joined Bath Uni?
So focus is always swimming fast, but I was quite ill last season, so I missed most of the year. So kind of building myself back up and trying to get myself back to where I was.
Because you were really high up in the 200 freestyle scene in Britain as well. Which is kind of thriving in the women's side right now. But like everyone talks about men's 200 freestyle, but the girls' side is almost just as exciting.
Yeah, it's really strong and there's some really good girls in there and it's good competition.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about enjoyment kind of already. We've already talked about that. So do you look at personal bests that have gone in that event right now, or are you focusing on enjoying your time in the sport?
Definitely there is a focus on personal bests. You always know where everyone else is at and you know where you are at. So I feel like there's definitely like the focus on PBs always.
So you've gone through that transition of age group swimmer to senior swimmer, which it's a really tough time for anyone in the swimming sphere because the PBs slow down, and there's a lot of transition just with life, going out of school and going into a university setting. So what advice would you give for any swimmers that are in that stage of their journey?
I'd say just focus on enjoying yourself and enjoying where you're at in your journey, because I think it's very common for young swimmers, especially female swimmers, to go through a big plateau kind of around that time. And I definitely went through 5 years of not PBing at all. And obviously that's quite difficult when you're not seeing the results on the scoreboard, which is ultimately where you want to see the results. But I feel like you can still see improvements in different areas, even if you're not seeing them up on the scoreboard. Like, you could set yourself smaller goals and targets that you could hit, like getting a new PB in a certain exercise in the gym or something in the actual sessions that you're doing, and using them as progress markers to show that you are improving. It just may not take a bit more time for whatever reason to actually show on the scoreboard.
So what did you do personally to get you through that sort of dark period? But that's a very strong term. What did you do to get through that period?
It was very hard. It was really hard, but I feel like I just love swimming, and I've always loved swimming, and I really enjoy training, and I just kind of, I don't know, it kind of built a lot of resilience to go through that and not see the results. Like, you could see some improvements, but not like the PBs, which is ultimately what I wanted. But I just had the self-belief that I could hit those PBs again. I had a lot more to give, so I kind of stuck through it and stuck through the hard times, because there were a lot of hard times during that period. So I feel like it was all worth it once I actually PB'd and broke that plateau. But yeah, I just tried to enjoy it the best I could with where I was at. Yeah.
It almost sounds like when you were going through that personal best struggle, let's say, or the personal best plateau, it's almost when, I think any swimmer we've spoken to, like we spoke to Emily Large about this when she came onto the podcast, anyone who's been on that journey, they almost understand their love for the sport better, because
100%.
It's so easy to enjoy something when you're good at it. And when you're, just because you're not PBing, it doesn't mean you're not good at it. But when you're not hitting the targets that you want to hit is when you really understand, do I want to keep doing this, essentially? Because it would be easier to drop out. And I kind of would love to understand where that love for swimming comes from.
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't love it as a kid. I really did not like swimming. When my mum would take me to swimming lessons, I used to cry and scream and try and get out of it. And then, yeah, I was doing swimming lessons up until I was, 10, and then I did a school swimming gala, and one of the teachers recommended I should join a swimming club, so I joined it then, and I've loved it ever since, to be honest. I just I feel like I wasn't very good at any land sports growing up, so in the pool was somewhere that I could kind of like excel and do well in, and somewhere where I could push myself and I actually enjoyed it. So I feel like, I don't know, I've just always loved it, to be honest.
Does a lot of credit have to go to Keynsham, seeing as that was your first sort of proper club, let's say?
Yeah, I'm still friends with a lot of the coaches. I actually saw some of them at counties at the weekend, which was quite nice. They're all really good, and yeah, high praises to all of them.
I mean, me and Dan are from around that area as well. Like, our swimming background is, Gloucestershire, so awesome. Somerset way. And yeah, especially the city. We both raced against City of Bristol as well, didn't we? And we understand that sort of setup really well. So it's good to hear that this area of the world is doing you well. Right, another reason we got you onto this podcast, and we won't dilly-dally around it, is the journey that you're going on social media, building up your own brand, essentially, your own personal brand. Why, and actually when did this start for you in terms of Jess Podger Fitness Instagram account?
So I first started out on TikTok a bit more, just around the end of 2021. I was posting nothing really to do with. I mean, there was some to do with swimming, just fun little TikToks. I remember I had COVID at the time. It was the time where you had to have kind of like 2 weeks isolation. So I was making a few TikToks in there. I had a few go viral, and they got sent around my uni group. So I was like, oh dear. And then I don't know. I kept posting a little bit, and then I decided I was going to make an Instagram account and as well, and take it a bit further because I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to document my swimming journey and share my love for the sport.
What's the overall reaction been then to this increased media presence?
I mean, it can be quite hard to put yourself out there. I feel like swimming is a very competitive sport, and I feel like it can be quite a kind of like competitive, like, oh, what are they doing in training? What are they doing? Sort of thing, with like peers and stuff like that. But I think I enjoyed starting it, and I still enjoy doing it. So I don't really care what anyone else thinks about me doing it, but I enjoy doing it. Yeah.
I think we saw literally last weekend the response that you got at Somerset Counties of people coming up and trying to take photos of you. It's almost, this is why we implore on this podcast in what we do with Propulsion Swimming for people really to push social media and make a name for yourself. It's why we've got a social media presence award at the end of year award show, because it really can make a difference in terms of, like, swimming struggles for visual representation of the swimmers themselves. Like, it's not a big sport in terms of paying you. It's not a big, but things like that can change if you're using social media. So when you're at meets like counties, do you enjoy that attention? Because from personal experience, it's a hard transition almost from that online presence to then that in-person presence. It's a different, I don't know, a different feeling altogether.
Yeah, I feel like it just kind of makes it all seem a bit more real. I feel like I just enjoy posting, and I don't really think about it that much. And then I see people coming up to me and telling me like how they really enjoy my content and how it's actually made a difference for them. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing something good. And that was the aim of it, to help younger swimmers and you know, share my love for the sport. So yeah, it makes me feel quite good.
Is there any specific topics that you have found that most popular, or most people keep messaging about, or, you know, most views, most clicks, most likes type thing?
I'd say a lot of people on the kind of pre-race anxiety sort of topics. That's quite a popular one, on how to handle nerves before races, and that's definitely something that I'm very passionate about, because I used to struggle with that a lot, and I still do, but I feel like there aren't enough resources out there and showing that other swimmers actually do face these kind of like pre-race nerves and stuff like that, even if they're at a higher level. And I wish I'd had someone on social media when I was growing up, and to see that, okay, I'm not the only one who's in this situation.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. Like, I think a lot of these younger kids just assume someone like Adam Peaty, Duncan Scott, those top guys don't feel nerves and don't feel pain sometimes. It's like, well, they're human. They're just like everyone else, you know, and it takes someone like you to say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm struggling with, this is how my week has been, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's very good that you're doing it, and it must be inspiring so many people to do it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely... I get quite a lot of DMs saying how it's helped them and how they want to like start posting as well. So that's really good to hear, because swimming needs the media presence, and you don't really see many swimmers posting that much. So I think it's good to have more on the scene.
Yeah, I kind of want to dig into that about nerves then. So what have you been doing to combat your nerves before race, and how easy was it to share those tips?
I mean, it's always scary to put yourself out there and kind of be vulnerable on the internet. But I feel like it's an important topic that isn't talked about enough. And yeah, growing up, I used to see different sports psychologists and found that really helpful. But I appreciate that not everyone has the resources or money to do that. So sharing kind of like free tips and stuff like that doing my bit to kind of help people, stuff that's worked for me, I think can be quite useful to people. And yeah, some of the tips that I share, they're ones that I use, like making sure your body position is actually like relaxed. It can actually trick your brain into thinking that you are relaxed, or just like smiling more, because it just automatically like kind of makes you feel a bit more relaxed. But yeah.
Do you get nervous about posting stuff? So you say it's quite difficult to put yourself out there, but do you get nervous before pressing that sort of send button?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, yeah. If it's a more like vulnerable post, or like something, like I try and share like the highs and lows of my swimming journey, and when it's a low, like obviously you're not very happy about it, but it's kind of hard to share it on the internet and let other people know kind of like when you're struggling. But I also think it's important to show the lows as well, because you only have so many highs. Most of the time it's probably going to be in training, like not enjoying it all the time, hard training. So
it's only human, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. So I think it's important to show the different sides of it. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about like the brand recognition that you're getting, and it's almost a fan base that you're growing. We've talked about how you're helping people on your own swimming journey, but there's another side to it that actually I'd love to know, and you maybe you don't need to go into the figures or anything like that, but is it helping you financially in terms of what you're doing?
Yes. Yeah.
In a big way? Or in a way that is extra help, if that makes sense?
helps you prolong your career, maybe, as well?
Yeah, definitely in a way that is helpful to my swimming career. I'm not on any funding or anything, so it is quite useful to have a little bit of extra to help along the way.
And I'm guessing that's not just financial, it's in terms of like, okay, so you've got this platform, that's the word I'm looking for. You've built this platform. It's not just financial, you've also built this platform, which means that you get the opportunity to work with brands, which I presume means you get to use products maybe for free. I'm putting words in mouths here, but potentially for free in return of advertising them. And those products then help your swimming career, because you wouldn't previously have either been able to afford them or have access to them.
No, definitely. There's definitely some free product benefits, but I feel like that's just a plus. Like, you've got to be, if you want to build a platform, you've got to be consistent with it and keep posting. And I feel like because I actually enjoy posting, and I love what I do, like I love swimming, so I feel like that really shows with kind of my consistency over kind of like the past 2 years of building up my platforms, that I've been able to stay consistent because I actually love it, like what I do, and I hope that kind of transfers into my content, like that everything else is just a bonus. It's not what actually matters to me. It's about sharing my journey and trying to help people on their swimming careers.
So is that the advice that you would, because there's going to be people listening here who want to start this own journey of social media. I'm sure there's plenty of people that do. Is that your advice to anyone who does? Like, make sure you enjoy doing it, and 2, you're consistent, and don't look for the rewards out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Like you've got to enjoy what you do and be consistent with it. I feel like you have to enjoy it and love what you do to be consistent in it. And yeah, everything else is just a bonus, but I feel like it's quite evident if you are doing it for monetary or other gains, if you actually enjoy doing it, kind of thing.
With the success you've had, have other teammates hinted at doing the same thing?
Yeah, there's definitely been a few teammates. I've got one of the teammates actually has his own YouTube channel, which had it before I even joined Bath. So I've been trying to get him to post a bit more, so to have someone else who does it with me.
That was one of my questions. Do you actually sort of hint at them and suggest to swimmers, like, maybe you should do the same sort of thing as well?
No, definitely. I'm always an advocate for people posting on social media more and about their swimming career. Like, why not? You do it all the time, so why not post about it as well?
And the big question then, have you found any have you found it's helped your swimming?
Definitely. I feel like I enjoy doing the content, but I enjoy swimming as well. So it just kind of merges the two. And, I'm always posting up my weekly wins normally on my story every week. And I feel like that's something that I do personally anyway, to say, even if I've kind of had a bad week or something, there's still positives that you can find. And I feel like that's been really helpful on my swimming career, of times when I've been going through those plateaus and things like that, or things aren't going too well. There's still positives that you can find in, a bad swim, a bad week, all of that. So there's still things like little small wins that you can take from even a bad situation or something.
Yeah, it's almost like making that social media post or that Instagram story, that TikTok reel, is reaffirming the positive habits that you're trying to get into, which help your swimming career. Like I can imagine just you posting a post about, you've already talked about it, like your tips when you get nervous for a race. Actually, you've created that content. You're much more familiar with those techniques because you've created that content, which then helps you as you go into your next race because you're really familiar with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Simple.
Where do you see it going, your brand, let's say, in the next number of years?
I'm not too sure. I definitely have some goals that I want to do, some business things that I want to do, but nothing confirmed yet. I've got to finish my uni degree first.
Now, Jess, before we get to our quick fire questions, which I think you probably know some of these are coming, have you got anything that you want to throw our way? Like any advice that we could help you with, maybe, on your journey?
Ooh. What's something that you've learned from starting your podcast?
The podcast? Swimmers, coaches, the whole network of swimming in the UK will talk and help you a lot more than you think. So if you're a coach who's starting your journey, if you're a swimmer who's starting your journey, if you actually reach out to someone and you have genuine intentions, you won't get a cold shoulder. I think it's been really, really easy to have very in-depth conversations with people we've never met before, like yourself, and have those conversations because it's not all closed doors. In UK swimming, I think there is a lot of openness that maybe goes under the radar, in my opinion. I think if you ask, people will help. Yeah, people are more open to questions than you ever thought. Like right at the top end. It's crazy. Okay, quick fire questions then, Jess, to end this podcast. So what is your favourite event in swimming?
200 free.
Who is your swimming idol?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Katie Ledecky.
Nice. What is your proudest moment in swimming so far?
Breaking the 2-minute barrier in my 200 free.
Nice. What is the hardest set you've ever done?
3 rounds of 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, all long course, all suited from a dive, max.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. Blimey.
That sounds a little bit like the set that Jordan Cooley gave us the other day. That's
very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Our final question gets to know you away from a swimming pool. We've talked a lot of swimming. Road trip. There's 3 spaces in the car. You can take friends, family, celebrities, anyone you want. Who would you take with you?
Ooh. I take one of my old coaches, Ewan Dale. And then I take Michael Phelps. And then I take a Mark Skimming, my current coach.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Jess, thank you so much for coming on to this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I hope people have learned about the positive effect that social media can have on a swimmer's journey. We really love seeing the content that you're putting out there. I honestly, I follow every single post. Best of luck for the rest of this season, and hopefully we'll see you at Bucks in just a few weeks' time.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
I mean, nearly 20,000 followers on Instagram is pretty good going. So hopefully you'll break that barrier soon and keep on climbing. And hopefully everyone's listened to this and maybe thought, maybe I could do this while I'm still swimming and even after, you know. So yeah, thank you for opening up, and best of luck for future competitions.
Thank you. It's lovely speaking to you both.
Okay, Dan, so great to have Jess on to talk about a topic both me and you are so passionate about. It's literally why we started the adventure of propulsion swimming 5 years ago now, Dan. Over 5 years ago we started this, purely because swimming doesn't have that social media outlet. It doesn't have swimmers confident enough to make a brand for themselves online and share their journeys in the pool, good and bad. And Jess is doing such a great job at it that we really wanted to have this conversation. We could have gone into a lot more detail. We could have been a lot more nauseating for some people to go into the real details of social media, like the analytics and all of that stuff. But hopefully there's some high level advice, some tips there that people can take away if you're a young swimmer who potentially in the future would like to, well, help fund your career a little bit better. There's some lessons there that Jess shared with us, and hopefully, like, we always say, if you need any advice, try and drop us a message. It's been a very busy few months for us behind the scenes moving houses, but yeah, we're trying to give you advice as and where we can, because this is something that we honestly think swimming needs to do better at.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the swimmers that are not confident to post about things, because they post about things quite a lot, but it's starting a brand, and I don't know if swimmers are actually aware of actually how much impact it can be for them and benefit from them. Exactly, the financial side, for one, it can prolong your career, as well as being almost like a counsellor almost to get over things like Jess was saying, like nerves and things like that. I think more swimmers should do it.
It's a powerful tool. It
really is. It really is. I mean, Jess is, like I was saying, nearly 20,000 followers at the time of recording this. By the time it goes out, maybe it'll be even more. Who knows? But she's doing fantastic work, and the amount of messages that she gets in from every swimmer, from all ages, is actually amazing. And in fact, that's, you know, she's obviously very open to saying all these things, and she'll give the best advice she can give about anything, your nutrition, recovery, you know, anything. So yeah,
it is as much as helping her own brand as it is helping others as well.
Yes, and that's key.
Maybe that didn't come across in the podcast, but I think it definitely is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. Next week, we are going to be back talking about bucks, because the long course competition is very much on the horizon now. And if you haven't noticed already, we are pushing university swimming massively during this season, because we are big advocates for the university swimming scene over here. We're going to have a discussion next week a little bit about a lot of university swimmers leaving, going to NCAAs, what our thoughts are on that, and maybe university and swimming in this country needs to step up its game a little bit, needs to provide more racing opportunities for the likes of Alex Cahoon and other people who are off to the States. But that's for next week's episode. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and on Spotify. And me and Dan will be back in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.